You do not need to be a baddie to get a man to commit to you. I just want to address that right here and now because I've been seeing some things in the comments, honey. Yeah, as a baddie, you absolutely will have more fun in the dating game in your youth, particularly. However, the baddies do not always end up as the wives. Now, as someone who's done both, honey, you absolutely can be a baddie and a wife, but you need to put your mind in gear. While looks is very, 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 very important to men when it comes to vibes, it is not as important when it comes to settling down and home life. When it comes to home life, wifey, wife, looks is actually not as high up, I think, as we would think as women. Men value things like peace, like being able to trust their girl, like having a welcoming and inviting home environment, someone who they think would be a good mother, someone who is respectful and respects herself, someone who is committed to the family unit and is willing and able to add value. Women, you are not going to want to hear this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it is the truth. Someone who is able to contribute in some way financially. A lot of women are going 50-50. Can we please stop lying to ourselves? And if you are fortunate enough to be in a position where your man is a provider and you do not have an expectation to financially contribute on an ongoing basis, that man is still going to want to see and believe that if anything should happen to him, because life happens, you are ready to stand 10 toes down and contribute, including financially. Now, the great thing about this is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So one man's trash is another man's treasure. Very crude expression, but sums up what I'm trying to say. And I know that there are a lot of women who do not physically feel the most attractive. And I'm talking to you specifically when I say you are not out of the game, you are not out of the running. You can still come in and snag this season's diamond. Come on, Bridgerton. What is really crucial is sense in your head. Let me be real with you. Because a lot of women, not realistic about the way you're thinking about relationships in this day and age.
Shout out to the content creator. I really appreciate her sharing her perspective and her viewpoint. I was taking some notes while she was down because I want to make sure I start hitting all these points in these videos, man. Because I really want to flesh it out and make sure I can give value back to what she's saying. Because I know a lot of guys here, but they may not know how to decipher it. They may not know how to unpack it or really break it down to the root. And so, just kind of going back to the beginning, one thing she said was, you could be a baddie and be a wifey. I don't agree. Baddies have a certain persona, but I understand the sentiment of what she's saying, right? She's saying you can still carry yourself like, really well, look a certain way, kind of have the energy of a baddie. Um, Again, I think that's an attractive mechanism to be able to attract certain men. But long term, I think that the man, and she brought up this point too, but I think long term, that's not really what we care about. It's good to, keep yourself looking right, keep yourself looking attractive, but not more so having to be a quote unquote baddie, right? Another thing she said was, men, we look for certain things, right? And one thing she intertwined that was like, there's a situation where most relationships are 50-50. I spoke about this in depth when it comes to modern marriages and how we really transition away from traditional marriages. Now, I'm not saying they don't still exist where the man can pay all the bills. He's basically, overseeing everything in the household to the T. And, the wife just kind of play her role. I think now the roles are interchanged. I think they're intertwined and everybody's just like working together just based on where society is. Now, to the point, yes, men are looking for loyalty, respect, love, a caring nature, right? Because these are things that we know that, okay, if you treat us like this, then my kids would be treated the same way, right? We also look for, hey, if something come up, like she said, was, can you hold it down? Like, hey, if I'm sick, I'm out of work for a minute, maybe I had to take, uh, long-term benefits, short-term benefits. Maybe I got injured some type of way, right? Maybe there's a war going on. I got shipped away. Can you hold down the fort? Can you hold down the house while I'm away, or I'm just incapacitated where I can't work for a while? Man, my uncle, you know, um, man, he went through it earlier in his life. You know, he was working, he was moving up in his career. And I remember time, this is when I first started kind of living with him. And I didn't know until years later he kind of told me, but he was like, he was working for Publix. And he was a assistant manager, but he was doing so good, man. I think he had finally got promoted to seafood manager. And we almost moved from Georgia to, I think, South Carolina because he was about to get promoted. This one, Publix had just started really booming in the South, but he ended up getting sick, man. And it just really flipped the whole house upside down. And a lot of stuff fell on my auntie. You know, shout out to her because she was really strong. It wasn't easy. Listen, it was not easy, man, for her. But she held it down. You know, she really held it down as best she could. And again, that's what men are looking for. And that had nothing to do with him, quote unquote, right? You know, cancer was kind of running through our family through genetics. Like my mother had it, she passed from it. My cousin passed from it recently, a couple years ago, which is his son, and who I call my brother. Let me just say that because I grew up with him all my life. And then, you know, my uncle had it. Another one of his sons had it, but he caught it early. And so it was just, you know, I think it was somebody else in the family who had cancer, man. But the point is, when he went down, you know, everything fell on her. And, you know, thank God it was married. She had the kids, and she didn't let us fall, man, too much. We struggled, but we didn't fall, you know. So shout out to my aunts. And that's why I say life happens. And that's the one thing she said, life happens. But if life does happen, because life be happening, I know that's a word salad, but we get the point. You know, do you find somebody who's willing to hold it down for you, you know, through the thick and thin, man? And that's part of those vows through sickness and health, you know, through sickness and health, and yeah. But yeah, man. Another thing she brought up was, you know, you don't have to be the prettiest. And I think that's where the misconception is. Listen, we all want the best. Like that's not what the point I think she's making. We want all those other intangibles, right? All those other soft skills that come with it. And that's what I mentioned in the beginning of her points about quote unquote settling down. Yes, man, we want wives, man. Wives, like me personally. Now my wife is absolutely beautiful, right? But if I don't care how, let me say it like this, right? I don't care how fine the girl is. If she brings no value, meaning she don't respect me, she don't treat me right, she don't care for me a certain way, she's not sweet to me, she can't cook. And again, I'm not saying you got to be in that chef in it, right? But if I'm hungry, you know, you can at least make some eggs, some like can you make a breakfast spread, right? Can you grill a steak? You know what I mean? Can you bake some chicken? You know what I'm saying? Can you, even if it's boxed mac and cheese, do you know how to put it on the stove, put water in it, understand the ratio, understand the cook time? You know what I mean? Do you know how to steam broccoli? It's in the back, pop in microwave, but can you dress it up? Can you sauce it up? Right? That's what we talking about. It don't gotta be you cooking from scratch like grandma did. You know, you making homemade cornbread, homemade mac and cheese. Like I ain't asking for none of that. Right? And a lot of men ask for that either. But they saying, listen, you can be the finest in the world, but do you bring anything else? If not, you know, yeah, you're a 10, but we're gonna take the 6 and 7. Because guess what? On a good day, they're 8, 9. You see what I'm saying? Let them get dolled up, we take that 8, 9. But we love them so much because the value they provide, we're gonna take a 6. Because we're gonna get less headache, we're gonna get less upkeep, quote unquote, maintenance wise, and we can use that money on going on vacation. We can use that money on buying them a nice car, and that instantly raises their value. You see what I'm saying? But if you already come in thinking you a baddie, you a 10, like there's no room for us to pour into you, in a sense, right? Because you feel like you got it all, even though you may lack a lot. So, the last thing she said was common sense, man. Do you have sense, right? And listen, a lot of single men to tell you, and a lot of men who in relationships who want a long-term relationship. Shoot, there's some married men out there. I don't know how it happened, but they married some wives who have no common sense. There's a lot of women out here right now who have absolutely no common sense, man. Just no common sense. And you need that. You need that, because here's the thing. Common sense for me equals logic, right? Are you logical? Again, we know women are emotional, but can you be logical too? Again, women got all the degrees in the world. They're very intelligent. But are you street smart? Can you hold yourself like a lady? Can you understand my needs? Right? Just the basics. Just a little common sense. Can you provide that? And I think a lot of men, if we can get that, I think a lot of men would be wanting to get married. I think it's the delusion, man. It really is. And I hate to that's my first time actually using that word actually in my video. But I see it. I see the conversation. And even women are saying, hey, we're delusional on our expectations. Not that y'all crazy or anything like that. I think society play a part in that, right? The marketing to women is played a certain part. But I think it's the delusion of expectation. I think that's what it is, right? Not that, because everybody's got crazy in them. Don't get it twisted. Everybody's can be weird. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can not have common sense. But I think it's the expectation of it. Like all these checklists and not what's realistic on what's going on around. I'm not saying that as a woman you shouldn't expect that, but you got to look at what's going on in the market. You have to look at what's really going on in the streets when you touch grass. Right? So, but common sense, that is the glue. That's the glue that I think help a man make that decision. Like, do he want to cross the line with you as far as make the ultimate commitment of you wanting to, marry you. So, but man, great video. Again, she's speaking to the ladies and I'm here for it. You know what I mean? I'm here for it, man. She really breaking it down. I don't know if she's married. I would think so if she got this type of mind state, which is great. Right. And she looked like a wife. She chilling. You know what I mean? Attitude on point. The energy's on point. Right? She has common sense. Even the way she articulated her message, just on point, man. We need more women like this. We absolutely do. We absolutely need more women like this. So, man, listen, take note. Again, I love showing y'all these videos, especially the men, because if you're a man who's single and you don't really know what to look for when it comes to a wife, these women that I put on here, the ones who I'm really backing up behind, to say, look, this is what you want. This is the framework here. This is the mentality that you want, right? You can tell she cool. She got a little sass to her, right? We here for that. We here for all that. But you can tell she don't really have an attitude, right? You can hear it in her tonality, just the way how she articulated her message. So I'm gonna show y'all what y'all do want and what y'all don't want when it comes to the husband code. So we're gonna keep rocking with these type of videos. But hey, drop a comment below. Subscribe to the Husband Code if it's your first time. If you've been watching for a while, subscribe. And if you got any value from this video, hit that like button and hit that notification bell as well, because we're going to continue to drop videos like this all the time. And until next time, I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. Seriously, we crossed 700. Peace.